Hi everyone, and welcome to Meath County Council Library Service. And today I'm talking to young adult author Sheena Wilkinson. So a little bit about Sheena is she is one of the most acclaimed Irish writers for young people. Since the publication of her multi-award winning Taking Flight in 2010, she has published several novels. The one that we're going to be talking today is Hope Against Hope, but she has a couple of historical fiction young adult novels before this, Star by Star and Name Upon Name. And she has, oh, there they are, perfect. She has a very particular taste on young adult historical fiction, and we're really going to get into that today. So I'm so happy that you were here, Sheena, and you're talking to me.
Ciara.
Thank you so much.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, so how are you? How have you been?
I'm fine, thank you. Can't believe that it's been a year of all of this weirdness.
Really
but,
crazy.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. Have you found it easier to write in the pandemic, or not so easy, or how has it been?
To be honest, it's been harder. This time last year I was really struggling to write at all, or even concentrate on reading, which is very, very strange for me, because I'm one of these people who I get up in the morning and the first thing I do is reach for my book, which will be probably under my pillow, and then read it as I clean my teeth and that kind of thing. And then once I did kind of commit myself to something, I found that just having that place to go every day where I wasn't thinking about the pandemic, I found that really, really helpful. So I did, from about last April, I was writing an adult novel.
Ooh, nice.
I'm still working on that. And I would say that although I was working more slowly than usual, I would say that it did probably help to focus me and make me not panic so much about the pandemic. Yeah. Because like most writers, my sort of default mental position is to catastrophize, because you spend your life catastrophizing on the page and making up terrible things to happen to your characters to make for a good story. And of course, in Star by Star, I actually wrote about the 1918 flu pandemic.
Yeah. Yes.
So.
Oh my God! Yes, so fitting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did I'm much better now, but certainly for the first sort of month or two of the pandemic, I was definitely in that kind of headspace where I was, in heightened kind of alert and panic.
Obviously I'm not a writer, I'm a librarian, but I think everyone was the same. I remember I would, like yourself, I'd be a huge reader and always had something. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I couldn't listen to anything. I had the news on repeat. I was constantly refreshing Twitter to see what people were talking about, like the latest announcement or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I heard a lot of people say that, no matter who you were and whatever walk of life, that the concentration levels and the commitment to things, because we weren't as well set up as we were this time last year as we are now. This interview would have never happened this time last year, because
we'd have been like, Zoom?
Yeah, what's Zoom? Totally, do you know what I mean? It was so new. I will never forget it was the 12th of March when Leo Varadkar closed the schools, so the libraries closed. Then on the 29th of March, I remember there was another announcement. I remember sitting on the couch being like, this is going to be nothing, whatever, it's going to be over 2 weeks. And then he you shut the country down. And I just think that was I think from that point onwards, it was heightened for everybody, especially like if you were a freelance and you are self-employed. I cannot imagine.
Well, my diary literally went, Hope Against Hope came out on the 5th of March last year. So we had a book launch for it, which now seems completely crazy. It must have been one of the last book launches that there was allowed to be. And I had a full diary of school events and festivals and, all the things that you'd hope to have with a new book. And I think particularly because this book was dealing with the Northern Ireland centenary, and I think there was certainly, I and my publishers had a lot of hope that
Hope Against Hope.
Hope Against Hope, that there would be a lot of, conferences and that kind of
I know what you mean. There was going to be a lot of work around it.
Yeah, because with Star by Star, which was published to commemorate the centenary of female suffrage in Ireland and the UK, I did a lot of events really throughout 2018.
Yeah.
And I suppose we kind of expected it to be the same. And my diary was full, and it literally went from being full to being empty just overnight. So, and that was scary. But I mean, I'm fine, you know. I'm okay.
And I think like compared to like the people that maybe we were this time last year, we've come a long way, you know, and even like just even being able to make things work. I suppose we had to, you know, like, you know, you had to make things work. But look, so I finished this at the weekend, loved it.
Good.
Loved it.
Imagine if you'd hated it and you knew you had to talk to me today. Wouldn't that
oh
have
my
been
God,
awful?
no, that's awful. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm sick. No, I loved it. I literally ate it. The thing I'm most interested about is you are nominated for the KPMG Children's Book Ireland Award.
Yeah.
Love Children's Books Ireland. I review them
they
all
are
the time.
Children's Books Ireland. We are so lucky in this island to have them. They're the most fantastic organisation.
It's a stunning organisation.
Yeah, I mean, the way they promote reading for young people, the way they just try and put books at the centre of young people's lives is fantastic. But also from the point of view of a writer, I mean, they treat writers so well. They make so many good opportunities for writers. I have a lot, because I'm in the north, I have a lot of kind of connections both with writers on the whole island of Ireland, but also I've got a lot of UK writer friends, and a lot of them are so envious that we have something like Children's Books Ireland. Yeah. You know, because
it's a stunning organisation, and even the people that work in it, like the editors,
they're just amazing.
They're really nice. But they always do, and us librarians love a good resource, but they always do a resource pack.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, have you not? Oh my God, there you go.
No, it's really weird to see that for your own book.
Yeah, so it's if you go onto their website, obviously there's videos of you of each person doing kind of the synopsis of their book, and then they did like a resource pack per book, which is downloadable and print. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. They did it for each of the shortlisters, so it goes through theme, summary, judges' comments, and about you, like your previous work. And this is the bit I love. So it's very much aimed at, say, school librarians, or even just like school teachers or public librarians like me, and because it does, if you have a young adult, or not even a young adult, but you have a children's book club, whatever age group your book is within, it does like a chapter by chapter question breakdown and analysis, which is stunning. So it really does that, and it really breaks it up into, I suppose, how you can maybe judge a character from the start and how you felt at the end, the journey. Beautiful questions in here. It's done really, really well. And then at the end, there is, after you've read a piece where like you could, with yours in particular, there's a lot of historical fiction kind of questions, as in, you know, how would you feel about this now? And, you know, do you think this would have gone on today? And like blah, blah, blah. And just different things, like, because we've so much more resources and information now, and rights, I suppose. And then it has further resources at the back, and like RTE archives and stuff like that. But for this, I would say you did so much research. Yes. Or are you naturally a local historian, or are you like you obviously read loads of history, do you?
I love history. I've always loved history. It was one of my favorite subjects in school, along with English and languages. And I particularly, I mean, I'm not by any means knowledgeable about many periods of history, but kind of the sort of first half of the 20th century, I would be fairly confident about, partly because I've read a lot of history, and particularly social history of that period, but also because I read a lot of fiction written, not set then, but written at that time.
Nice.
Even growing up, I mean, I loved girls' school stories, and that's kind of something that I reference quite a bit in the book. So I grew up with all those books, and I loved them, and I actually did my PhD on girls' school stories.
You have a PhD? Wowee!
Yeah. So so the research is something that I genuinely enjoy, but it's also quite dangerous because it's so easy to just fall into a rabbit hole of research and spend ages on some small detail that isn't actually, crucial. So what I do is, when I'm writing historical fiction, and at the moment that's pretty much all I'm writing, what I do is once I work out what I want to write about and when it's going to be set and where it's going to be set, I do the kind of basic research that I'm going to need, but I always know that I'll need a lot more than that. So when I start the first draft, I know that I'll have more little things to pick out. So for example, writing Hope Against Hope, I would have been writing the first draft, and there's the novel. I mean, it's very particular things happen on particular days. So for example, the day that Polly arrives in Belfast, I wanted there to be some trouble that she gets caught up in. Now that wasn't really difficult to do, because 1921 was a very troubled year, and there was a lot of rioting, there was a lot of burnings, there was a lot of sort of public unrest, that kind of thing. So it wasn't hard to do that, but it was important to me that I got, the right
date,
the right date, so got the right riot in the right place and that kind of thing. But
that's very specific. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't actually, shows what I know, but I didn't realize that you had done that.
Yeah,
that makes so much
absolutely,
so much sense.
Yeah. So what happens when she arrives in Belfast and she meets the character Stella? Stella has been at a Labour rally at the Ulster Hall, which was sort of infiltrated and by loyalists, and sort of there was quite a lot of violence. So that was kind of my starting. That had to be the date that she arrived in Belfast, because for all kinds of reasons it was important that was the event that she kind of arrives in the middle of.
Yeah.
So
I have one question actually for you. How old is Stella?
Stella is 15. Oh, sorry, Stella. No, sorry, Polly is 15.
Polly's
Stella is 18. Sorry, Stella is 18.
Stella's 18. Because when I read about her, I'm like, this girl is like 30. Do you know what I mean? Because she's so mature. Like, she's so well read and so well informed. And I was like, I really thought, because she had created Helen's Hope. Do you know what I mean? Like, she seems like to be the
but she hasn't created it, but yeah, she's kind of the right hand woman of
that's what I mean.
Kathy and Scotty. Well, I think what's interesting about that is because Stella is seen through Polly's eyes. Polly is 15 and quite naive and probably very young for her age. Stella is 18, and if you read Star by Star, Stella is the main character, and she's 15 then, and she loses her mum in the Spanish flu pandemic. She takes on quite a lot of responsibility at an early age. But from Polly's point of view, see, I'm writing about Stella at 18, and and I'm in my early 50s, so I see her as a young girl making a lot of mistakes and being actually very unsure of herself. But through the eyes of Polly, who's younger and who kind of looks up to her and admires her and has a bit of a girl crush on her, she's going to see her as being like, do you remember at school? Like, I remember being in first year, and like the sixth form girls, they were like these goddesses.
I always think that, like, they were like men and women, like fully grown men and women with jobs. Like, that's how I thought they were. Like, really thought that. And I suppose that now that you say it, that we're Polly's point of view, like, because she is young for her age and she comes from a different type of a background. Stella, I really thought Stella was so much older, but now that you say, like, sure, she couldn't be. Do you know what I mean? Like, she couldn't be much older. And two, when you said that about her having a pash on Stella, that really I remember reading that, and I was like, I remember my granny used to say that. When she said that, like, when she was going to school, like, you'd have a pash on an older girl because they were so. And I had never read that. But it really brought back a lovely memory of her saying that, like, older girls, or even like her older sister's friends, where she thought they were so cool and that they had jobs and they had money and everything. But, like, no, they didn't. You know what I mean? Like, like, they were only a couple of years older than her. Yeah. But I had never heard anyone else say that, and that was a nice.
Yeah, I think one of the things that young people will do in any generation is they will look for role models, and they will look for people to aspire to and look up to. And for young people today, I mean, there are so many people in the media that they can sort of focus on, but like we didn't really have that so much. And certainly 100 years ago, girls didn't have that so much. So
it was more a local level.
So it was much more localized and much more kind of personalized. But it's really nice that your granny used the word pash, because it's a word that I got from reading, books like Angela Brazil and people like that. So it's really nice to hear that, like, your granny in Ireland used the word right, and I kind of got it right.
Yeah, like my granny would be when she died a couple of years ago, but she was a very hardcore Dublin lady. She's from the Five Lamps in North Strand in Dublin, and when I literally brought back, I remember her telling me that, like, do you know what I mean? And that was really, really nice.
Yes,
but with this Sandy, I really liked Sandy, and I know you had written about him. It was in Star by Star before.
Sandy comes into Name Upon Name.
Oh, Name Upon Name.
Yeah, and I'm doing shameless product placement here, and Star by Star. Yeah, in Name Upon Name,
right.
The main character is Helen, who's 14, and Sandy is one of 2 older cousins that she has who are off fighting in the First World War. And for plot reasons, Sandy is absent for most of Name Upon Name because he's on the Western Front. But I really, really liked Sandy. And funnily enough, talking about grandparents, I mean, my granny was born in 1908. So she would have been a little girl at the time all these events were happening. And sometimes when I'm looking for like names and things for characters, I would go back to my granny's family and also her friends, just to get the names right. And she had a brother. I never met him. He died young. Most of her siblings died young, apart from her and her sister, who both lived into their 90s. But she talked a lot about her brother Sandy. And just the way she talked about him, he just always sounded lovely. And all I know about him is that he was called Sandy and he was good at dancing. Now my Sandy doesn't really dance, but so I used his name. Sorry?
Yeah, he has a gentle persona, kind of. Do you know what I mean?
So he's a Name Upon Name, and he has to be offside for most of the time because he's fighting in the war. And then Star by Star, I brought him back from the war, and he has a pretty rotten time in Star by Star because he's been invalided out of the army, he has PTSD, etc. So then when it came to Hope Against Hope, I really, really wanted a happy ending for Sandy.
Yes.
And there's a bit of a mystery around Sandy and his love life, so I don't want to give any big spoiler. Another
theme that I thought you portrayed really well was Polly's home life, and the setup there, as in, her mom passed away from the Spanish flu, and then the relationship she has with her brother and her dad, and how she kind of has been given the household and that she has really no other prospects than the household. And obviously her brother is not well. He has PTSD of some form, but I just thought, you portrayed it really well. Like, I felt like I was with Polly when incidents were going down with her brother and different things like that. And then it kind of, and I'm not going to give it away, but then at the end, when it kind of did a bit of a 360, I really liked that. But do you think if Polly never went to Helen's Hope, or she never, I suppose, had the courage and nearly audacity to run away, do you think she would have just remained in the household? Maybe she wouldn't have, because she's a strong character, but do you think that was her? That's where she was going to end up. That was her life.
Well, I think, we have to, I think there's a couple of things we need to remember. I think we need to remember that for women at that time, 1921, I mean, it was a time of increasing opportunities for women. There's no doubt about that. And Polly sees that around her. I mean, even in her own small community, which is a little town, which has become a border town sort of overnight, she sees her cousin being sent off to study in Belfast. She sees the local sort of posh girl being sent off to boarding school, and she is stuck at home being housekeeper because she's the only girl. And
yes,
yes, and yes, in real life, her life could have ended up just looking after these two men until probably she ends up marrying some other man, and and doing the same for him, or staying or staying at home as like the spinster daughter. So, but the fact is, because it's a novel, that would be a very depressing novel. And
yes.
so her running away to Belfast is the catalyst that is needed
to break free, kind of.
To get the story started. So
and I think too, if her father really didn't want her to stay up there, he would have come and got her. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think in a roundabout way, he wanted her, even though it probably was hard for him. Like, he had to mind himself, but in a way, he let her live up there.
I think that's a really good point. I actually really like the father, because it's funny, like the father is Polly sees him as an old man, but I think I made him 51 or something, which is the same age I was when I was writing the book. And I really feel for him, because his wife has died, his son has come home from war, the family are under attack in the town because and the shop is under attack because the brother from a nationalist background went and fought in the British Army, as did tens of thousands of other young men from that background. So those are things that I really like exploring. And I think you're right. I think the father, although he wouldn't have chosen for Polly to run away, Polly, this isn't a spoiler because this happens near the beginning of the book, but Polly runs away because of domestic violence.
Yes.
And I think you're right. I think that at some level, her father, although he'll have to, as you say, mind himself.
Yes.
I think he's actually pleased for her to have escaped, because he does love her and he doesn't really want to turn her into a drudge.
Yeah, and I think there was never a point she wasn't going to leave, because she was set and determined, because Flora and Katherine had gone. In a way, she was jealous, like.
Oh, she's totally jealous, yeah. And of course, the irony is that her cousin would have loved to just stay at home and
I know,
and baked her cakes, and she's very domestically minded, but Polly isn't.
Yes. And it's different, the different opportunities that kind of had life given them. And I think it's interesting too, because Polly is very protective over Katherine.
Yeah.
And everyone cops that, and everyone is kind of like, you need to stop that now. Like, don't be kind of Mammy and Katherine, but she feels she has to mind Katherine. And maybe, I don't know if but then maybe Katherine likes being not minded, but you know what I mean? Because she tells her everything anyway. Like in her letters, Polly went up knowing all the girls' names and that, but then she realizes that Katherine has a whole little life over here. Do you know what I mean? And she fancies Sandy, and they're different things. Like
they all fancy Sandy.
Yeah, they all fancy Sandy. Like, I think I was fancying Sandy myself.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think so. But she is. Did you want Katherine to be? Did you want to make that point of Katherine kind of coming into her own?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, very much so. Katherine is Polly's cousin, and she's always sort of been in Polly's shadow. Polly is very imaginative and feisty and strong-minded, and Katherine is much gentler and also much less confident. And it's clear. I mean, Katherine is obviously dyslexic, but that's not a word that would have been, it was known at that time, but it wouldn't have been known among sort of just ordinary people. So Katherine has grown up thinking that she's stupid, that, and so she is an easy target for bullies and that kind of thing. So it was really important to me that Katherine found what she was good at, which happens to be baking and cooking. And she finds a way to, the whole book, to be honest, all my historical novels are all about young women coming of age against turbulent times in history. And it was really important to me to be realistic and not give kind of falsely happy endings. So like Hope Against Hope, it does end hopefully, but it's still against a background where there is ongoing violence. And, when we know what happened to Northern Ireland, it was not a successful time,
kind of.
Well, it didn't turn out to be a very successful state, but but on a personal level, I had to have some kind of fulfillment for the characters. I mean, there's not a happy ending for all of them or for everybody, but for many of them there is.
And like I said this to you before we started, but I felt obviously that the time it's set in and the location and the geographic, everything. But regardless of that, I felt so safe within this.
Yeah.
Because I really felt I was one of the girls' friends. Kind of.
Oh,
I was in the dorm too, and I was looking out the window at Ivy, and
that's really good, because
I did, even though it was a terrifying time, and I don't even know how I would react now. God forbid something like that happened. Now, it was a very safe place, and when maybe that's because Helen's Hope was a safe place.
Well, I think that's what I wanted to do.
And even the girls, like when they have the open day, and all the girls are so lovely, and they're so any walk of life that comes in, and they're so lovely to everyone, and I just and everyone was doing housework, and everyone's cleaning, and everyone's working, and everyone's trying to do their best, even though there's not a whole lot of work. But then what's going on outside, literally outside their walls, is horrific. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was really nice. That was really nice. Like, I had to kind of remind myself, oh God, like this is a scary time.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the whole point of the novel, is to have this imagined safe feminist space, which is the kind of, it's at the center, and then all this violence is going on around it. But of course, it's actually not as safe a space as it appears, because the girls come from all different backgrounds, and that's not just different religious backgrounds, but also different social backgrounds. But they bring their prejudices with them. And, and Helen's Hope is threatened from the outside, but it is also threatened from the inside. Yes. So it's really interesting to me, and really nice that you took away this idea of it as a safe space, because I wanted it to seem like a safe space, but and I wanted it to prevail, and it does prevail. That's not a big spoiler alert, that Helen's Hope, because Helen's Hope stands for such positive values, and it was really important for me that it does thrive, but it thrives despite, or perhaps because of, being attacked constantly throughout the book. There's some quite violent scenes, and there's a scene where the girls are coming back from mass. And they are attacked by some local boys who do become very important in the story. And Polly realizes we're being attacked because we're Catholics. Yeah. But deeper than that, they don't like us because we are women. And we are women who dare to live in a slightly different way. And, women have always been, women who are seen as transgressors in any kind of way have always been punished. Whether it's witch trials,
for smart women,
exactly. And so that's very much at the heart of the book as well, as these women are considered, how dare they have this space where they live without men.
I think it prevails because of the very strong female characters, and they have to be very strong for it to prevail, because everybody wants them to fail.
Yes,
but but they don't. And I loved that. I absolutely loved that. I am just conscious of the time there, because I know you have lots of things to be doing.
No, it's just, honestly, for an author who hasn't been able to go to a live event for over a year, who has a book out in a pandemic, who hasn't been able to go and talk to anybody about that book in real life, it's such a pleasure to sit here and chat to you about it. So
that's so lovely. About that. Oh my God, because I want to know what's next. What's after Hope Against Hope? Are we allowed to know?
Well, there's not an awful lot to tell, actually. I am writing an adult novel set in 1933. I'm writing it hoping that my agent can sell it. I don't have a contract for it. I don't have another contract from the wonderful Little Island for another novel. I'm obviously hoping that I do have, I have lots of ideas. They would all be historical. I'm not, my first few novels, Taking Flight, Grounded, Too Many Ponies, and Still Falling, and then Street Song, which was not published by Little Island, but published by a Scottish publisher. They were all very sort of gritty, contemporary, And I kind of feel that I'm more interested at the moment in telling historical stories, but also the fact is, I'm 52. I'm not kind of down with the kids, and I'm not going to.
Oh my God! Yes, you are.
I don't feel that there. See, I didn't just set out to write young adult fiction. I just set out to write fiction. And Taking Flight obviously was published as young adult. Well, it was young adult fiction. It is young adult fiction. And then, you are expected to sort of keep on writing more of the same. But, as a young adult, I read books for young adults. I read books for adults. I read books for children. In any one week as a young adult, I might have been reading a Shelley school book and a modern young adult novel. And then maybe, I don't know, Jane Austen or Dates or all in the same week. So, and that's, I like writing for all different age groups. I've written some middle grade. I've written obviously mostly young adults. And actually my historical novels, I would say, are kind of that slightly younger teen, because there's no sex or anything like that.
Yeah, but I think that was like, not that people can think what they think, but I think that's another thing that made it just so easy to read and so enjoyable, that you were not threatened by anything coming up that you didn't want to come up. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you were transitioning from maybe an older child into a young adult, because as librarians we would be very conscious of, so we would have junior fiction, which is babies and under fives, and then you have junior fiction, and then you have maybe older junior fiction, and then young adult, and then older young adult. So this would, I would love to give this, say, maybe like 12, 13, 14-year-old girl or boy. Like I can't wait to give this to my young adult book club, because I know they're going to love it.
Well, what I try very hard to do is with all my historical novels in particular, I consciously try and write a book which an intelligent 12-year-old will read and enjoy at their level. But I also write them so that you or any other adult, I want them to get a lot from it as well. And I had a really interesting experience with Star by Star. Star by Star was chosen by a school in Dublin where the whole school read the book.
Oh, cool.
It was fantastic. So it was like 500 girls all read the book. And I went down and did 2 talks, one for first and second year, one for third and fourth, one for fifth and sixth. So what was really, and I did more or less the same talk for the 3 sets of year groups, but what was really interesting was the way the 12 and 13-year-olds read it and the way the 17, 18-year-olds read it was completely different. It was almost like they'd read a different book.
Oh my God.
With Star by Star, so the younger ones were all like, they all thought that Stella was going to marry Sandy. Okay, this is in Star by Star, which I don't think you've read yet, but so Stella and Sandy are really good friends in this book, and all the younger girls were like, so when are they going to get married?
Yeah. And
I had to say, well, they won't. Sandy is 22, Stella is 15. It would be totally inappropriate. And they don't feel that way about each other. Whereas the sort of middle school girls around kind of 15, 16, they all said, oh, no, but Stella's gay, isn't she? And I had always thought that Stella was gay. It's not a big deal in Star by. It's very, 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 very understated in Star by Star. It's more obvious in Hope Against Hope. Yeah. But I'd always just known it in the way that you just know your characters. Yeah. But it was so interesting that that's what they saw. The younger girls that just woof right over their head. And then the much older, the really older girls, the 5th and 6th years, they were really interested in the politics. So they were really interested in the politics and that kind. So it was almost as if they'd all read a different book, and they'd all read exactly the same book, but they'd read it in a different way, and it was exactly what I wanted.
Oh my God!
What I set out to do. So I'm so pleased.
That is so cool to actually have something in the flesh that came to fruition. That's phenomenal. Do you know what I mean?
I was very pleased about it.
And the fact too that you can aim a book, an Irish historical fiction book, from say 12 to 18-year-old girls, like that's huge. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, from 12 to
myself.
Not 18, but 12 to 80, you know, because
exactly.
I do like, I mean, I do like adults to read my books as well, and they do.
Yeah, and I loved it.
Good.
But look, Sheena, I will leave it there.
Thank you so much, Ciara. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today and talking. I can't wait to read your adult book, maybe soon. But I can have a look at. But look, best of luck with everything, and thank you so much.
No, thank you, and thanks to all the readers. And I hope you know, explore the books and maybe find something new and enjoy it.
Yeah. Look, keep writing, and I'll keep reading. Is that okay?
I'll keep writing. You keep reading.
Okay.
Thanks a million.